Marilyn Monroe's in the news again because her home is in danger again. Now, Marilyn's been dead for over 60 years, yet she continues to make the news. There was a Netflix movie about her, which was really gross. I'd never seen a camera angle like I did in that movie. Then, a couple of years ago, a certain well-known person wore Marilyn's Happy Birthday, Mr. President dress to the Met Gala, ruining it, really, certainly ruining its integrity, but caused a lot of damage to probably one of the most famous garments in history. I think it really is. And Marilyn's home on Helena Drive, where she passed away in August of '62, was purchased by someone who put through papers to get permissions to have the home demolished. And historians and Marilyn fans were outraged, and they got a city council person to give it a reprieve. And they're trying to get historic status. Marilyn Monroe, in her 36 years, has over 70 documented addresses where she lived. But this home where she passed away in is the only house she ever owned. So if you ever go to I took a movie star's homes tour here in Palm Springs, and they said Marilyn owned that house. Well, no, she didn't. And Marilyn probably haunts every ladies' room in Hollywood and every hotel, and she and Joe have honeymooned in every hotel you can imagine. But this was the only house Marilyn ever owned, and she only lived in it for about 6 months. And then yesterday it was revealed that the people who own the house are actually suing to be able to demolish their own home. Now, I understand if I bought a house for millions of dollars and I wanted to tear it down, I don't think that's very nice, but they're entitled to that, I think. But on the historic aspect, it's odd too, because you can't really see it from the street, and sort of, if it was torn down, it'd take a long time for people to even find out, because you can't really see the house from the street. So I'm going to show you what you can see from the street, and I'm going to show you some footage I took back in the early 90s too, where we did get a peek at the exterior of the house. My friend Scott Fortner from the Marilyn Monroe collection actually got to go through the house ages ago, a few years ago rather, and he has video of it on his Instagram page, Marilyn Monroe Collection. But I'm going to show you her home, what you can see of it now, what I saw of it then, and I'll take you to pay our respects to Marilyn on a rainy day in Los Angeles. I went to visit her. So join me on my little trek to Maryland land. Oh, and also you're going to see something in Palm Springs. Something very cool, something very kitschy. And surprisingly, there's not a lot of kitsch out here in Palm Springs, but you're going to see one of the coolest. So interesting to note that Marilyn Monroe lived in this house on Helena Drive, 5th Helena Drive, for not very long actually, but this is, you will see, the last home of her, the home that she passed away in, and also the only home she ever owned, which is, Marilyn could have gone the ostentatious Beverly Hills route, but she's actually pretty conservative, and this is a quiet little neighborhood. And no doubt of all the Helenas, because there are several Helenas. There's like up to 18, first Helena, second Helena, third Helena, all the way up to, I think, 18. And Marilyn's probably the most famous resident of the Helenas. So if I didn't mention it before, we are in Brentwood right now. Just past St. Martin's of the Tours Church, where Nicole Simpson's funeral was held, and John Candy's, and I think Fred McMurray's too. And we're crossing the infamous Bundy Drive. Nicole was killed and Ron were killed just about a mile to our left. So my road map point that I always remember is Carmelina. But you'll notice now the Helena streets. And you can see how narrow they are. So here's 18. And Marilyn, as I mentioned before, lived on number 5, 5th Helena Drive. 12305 5th Helena Drive. kind person. Thank you. Boy, they are doing some tear down stuff around here. There is, you know, everyone says, oh, it's fine, it's progress. I don't like it. I don't have to like it. It's sad to me to see these wonderful places with style being destroyed and other houses being put in their place. It's like, well, if you wanted, you know, that house is somewhere else. Marilyn's house, in fact, the last time it was sold for more than it was being offered for. So I'm going to get out here and I'm going to walk to the end of the street. So as you can see, it's a very modest little street, a very quiet little street. That's a brand new house, not a quiet little house. See, there were usually little bungalows. And it looks like they bought 2 or 3 houses to build that one. According to LA Woman Tours, Marilyn's house was built by famous architect Harbin Hunter, a pioneer in California history. He was an architect who co-developed the Hollywood Land real estate tract. In fact, one of his buildings in Santa Monica does have landmark status. So it's not just Marilyn. So that was Marilyn's driveway. 12305 Fifth Helena Drive. So when you see the ambulance taking Marilyn out, it was from this driveway. See, there's part of the house right there. Now, I'm not going to do it now because somebody's home, but I have sort of reached over the gate and taken a couple of pictures in the past, so I'll show you those next. Yeah, that's all new stuff. Marilyn's last home. Get some better shots of it because I'm not sure the last ones did. Now what I'm going to do is lift it over the fence.
Maybe you can pull the car out.
This is the makeshift address on a piece of masking tape. How dignified. This is a weird cemetery because really, if you didn't know where it was, you would never know it was here. Just in the middle of some skyscrapers in Westwood, it is, you know, probably per square inch, the most expensive real estate anywhere. But it is tucked behind these buildings because they have some epic, legendary artists in. Had to come back the next day because there was a funeral going on. So here we are the next day, and it happened to be a very not nice day. But here's that cemetery. And I'm going to park, and I'm going to show you Marilyn's grave. This is the interior of the chapel inside Westwood Memorial Park, and this is where Marilyn's funeral was held. So after Marilyn's service in the chapel, her casket was taken out that door, or where those doors are, and taken down here and put in the hearse and driven over to her crypt, which was at that time rather new. Now there's always people visiting, always. And if you look across the way, you can see that whole building right there. That's all new from when Marilyn was put here. Marilyn is actually where you see those flowers over there. And so hers was like the last grave there. None of that stuff was there beforehand. The cemetery actually wasn't very crowded back then either. Didn't have a whole lot of celebrities in it. Marilyn sort of gave it its status. This is a visit I made to Marilyn's grave in August of 2022, just after the 60th anniversary of her death. And you can see how the fans still adore her. So I figured I'm driving by here. I'll drive by Palm Drive and stop real quick to see one of the most famous homes of Marilyn Monroe. This one, which is remarkably still intact. This was the home that Marilyn shared with Joe DiMaggio for the entire 9 months that they were married. It's a very modest house, and I thought for sure it had been torn down by now. But it isn't, and it's pretty cool. But very famously, Marilyn was announcing their divorce and held a press conference on the front, in front of this front door. And if you look at that old footage, you can see Marilyn, a very, very distraught Marilyn, standing in front of that door. Still has the same number on the door, still has the same light above it, and a ton of photographers. And what's crazy is that you can see how big this front lawn is. It's really not big at all. So when they showed this in the video, you really honestly you have no idea how actually modest this really is. But she was quite heartbroken and standing with her attorney, Jerry Geisler, right there. Behind me is the famous Marilyn Monroe statue that was unveiled in 2021. here in Palm Springs. It used to be in a different location in Palm Springs. It was here they had like a 5-year contract on it, and Palm Springs ultimately bought one and had it placed right here, and people lost their ever-loving shit about it because the art museum is back over there. And people thought they're going to be looking at Marilyn's skirt from the art museum, and it pissed a lot of people. I just think people had too much time on their hands. There's the hotel that we were in when we watched the unveiling of the Marilyn statue. Thank you to my friend Scott, who has the Marilyn Monroe collection, which is a gobsmacking collection of Marilyn's actual items that she owned. Mostly her clothing, but a whole lot of stuff that belonged to Marilyn. And hopefully that's going to see the light of day so everyone can enjoy it soon. But look at this. It's been a crappy day today, but there's never not a bunch of people here. So welcome back to Palm Springs, Maryland.
You heard me.